Hello, Sandy here again, back by popular demand on the job site with Legendary Escapes as we shoot another round of shotcrete on the Grotto, as well as exciting things are happening because a couple pallets of supplies are being delivered, Portland cement and different fun things like that. So super cool that it's all arriving today. Super not cool that the concrete truck and the Home Depot delivery truck are here at the same time, just about. So let's spin it around so you can see what's happening, and we'll have some fun on the job site today. All right, whew. As we can see, there's our delivery happening. Al is doing some moving of things on his machine. We are all prepped and ready. Kaylee, tell me what we are working on today and why is right now particularly interesting.
Well, we are waiting for our concrete truck to show up, and our Home Depot truck or the semi of stuff showed up to deliver our Portland mason mix and block. We got it delivered, that way it's easier and we don't make 1,000 trips to Home Depot. We just got pallets delivered at a time. So we're kind of rushing the Home Depot guy to unload his stuff in case the truck shows up. And we're gonna watch for the truck and just have him sit for a second and add his water out on the road so the Home Depot can finish unloading their stuff. And today we are partially shooting and partially pumping. We are gonna shoot another layer on top of the grotto, as well as, well, I'll be up on the grotto shooting that, and then I'll hand the hose down to Al inside the grotto and he'll shoot a layer on the ceiling in there. And then we'll be pumping. We made boulder forms out of lath and rebar, so we'll be pumping those full. We have 2 trenches on the far end of the pool and then 1 footing for the slide that we'll also be trying to fill today.
Awesome. Do you think Zach's gonna get to hold the hose at all today?
Nope. Maybe the pump, but it's just I'm the only one up on the roof. Jesse might be up there to hold me, and Al will be the one inside the grotto, and there's not enough room, so
Got it.
I'll have to wait for another day.
Okay, so Al's slopping around in a bucket of something. What is that?
That is the bentonite. That is what you hear everyone talk about in the lives of priming the hoses. And that allows put a bag in and it all shoots out at once to prime the hoses right before the mud goes through the hose.
Okay, so what is he doing now? Mixing?
Yeah, he's mixing it up. It usually ends up in chunks, so he's just using it.
You guys just want it all lined up?
Yep. He's using his hand to mix it up because with the stir stick, it still leaves it all clumpy, and if he gets it all nice and slick, then it goes in the pump a lot easier.
So Al, what is bentonite?
Bentonite is clay, ground up clay. And when you add water, it swells. And when it swells, it gets sticky. It's used in retention ponds. If you put a layer of bentonite clay, it acts like a liner and holds the water in. Water cannot get through it once it swells up. So we're using it just as a slicking agent. It's really slippery. Like if you felt my hands, they'd be super slippery right now. That coats the inside of the hose so that the mud can slide through easier. And once we get mud flowing, the mud will keep lubricated, but we need to make sure that mud is lubricated for the
Okay. So without giving anything away, in case our homeowner's watching, wink wink, you had made a comment the other day that the level of detail and extraordinariness on this pool is like nothing we've ever done before. Care to elaborate?
I come to notice as we're planning each pieces that I don't think in anything we've done to this point we've planned out the details to this level. I think we're taking it to a whole new level of anything we've done before. So, which is kind of fun because it's a whole nother set of challenges when you're working in concrete to prep things And so you need to know somewhat what's coming, but not knowing all of it has been really exciting and fun. And I think that they have no idea. You guys have no idea what it's ultimately going to be, which is going to be good, because it's going to be, I promise you, 10 times better than you had hoped it would be. 10 times.
Only 10? Like when you were talking about it yesterday,
At least 10.
we were
They have no idea.
we were at levels beyond 10 times.
Well, I'm setting the bar really low then.
Oh, okay, got it.
Beyond what they would have
Like,
imagined
I mean, 2 times better, 10 times better. I mean, we could go like 15.5 times
You
better.
could, but boy, that's really tough compared to 10 times better. It's going to be so much easier to perform than 15.
The math will be easier to do
The
if
math will be
it's
easier to do.
10 times.
Yep.
Okay, so
It will be beyond anything that they would have imagined, though. I can guarantee you that much.
so is there a method to the number of buckets of water that we have waiting?
More the better.
Okay,
So what happens when we're done, we like to get the process done quickly, and it's called a suicide wash. And what we do is, as soon as we pump the last of our mud out, we fill our hopper immediately with buckets. Otherwise, you'd have to let the hose fill it. And we do what's called a suicide wash, which is you're now using water to push the last of the mud out at the end of the hose, and it blows the majority of the material out. And then it just makes cleanup easier. It makes, because we get that material out, the hose is a lot lighter. It still has to be cleaned again, but at least you push the bulk of the heavy concrete out of it, so then we can maneuver the hoses.
why is it called a suicide wash?
It's a term in the industry that's used for that, because it's
Otherwise, it's a long and
Well,
drawn out
it
wash.
is, but in a lot of cases, blowing out the hoses is potentially the riskiest and most chance for damage. Short of getting hit or letting go of a hose when it's running, if you get a blockage in a pipe in a hose and you put a lot of pressure behind it, if that blockage lets go, it comes out and it thrashes the hose all over. And for whatever reason, that's just when you use water, that's what the industry has called it. A lot of the guys will use an air compressor, they'll hook an air compressor to the hose and blow the material out. And that is potentially a lot more violent, because you can get a lot of pressure behind it, and then you can't stop the pressure. Once you blow it down, you see what kind of pressure looks like as well. When you blow your hoses out with air, you have to be laying on them, virtually holding them down, so that they don't kick all over the place. We've seen what happens with compressed air. So we do the water wash because it just works for us, and we pre-charge it with buckets. That way we don't have to wait. The minute the pump is empty, we fill it up and we blow those hoses out. It just saves us the headache of having to rush and pull it together to do it. If we do it immediately, then we know the hoses are okay, and then we can take our time to wash them out the rest of the way.
Okay. How many?
That's why we came to that with the buckets, and the more buckets, the better.
Got it. And this is a semi of supplies. Were you expecting more semis of more supplies today as well?
There's another truck bringing another pallet from Portland Cement.
Okay.
It's coming from a different location.
Got it.
And if that one shows up while concrete is here, then we're just going to have to do it and put it on the road and all that on my hand. So at least if we get this is the bulk of the order, we get that back there, that's all that less moving we have to do. So
Well,
timing's working out good here.
you do have a Zach, so
We do have a Zach,
You know.
but we don't need the beat Zach up here in the We can have the beat stuff without considered productive stuff. And that's not really productive stuff if we could do it another way.
got it.
And while Zach likes to do it, mostly, it gets a little bit old sometimes.
Okay. Are you scrambling around doing anything, or do you have time to give a little just lesson on the pump? So what happens once the truck gets here? Since at that point things are moving quickly, and I know better than to ask these types of questions.
All right. Well, this is a ball pump, and it works quite differently than most shotcrete pumps. This pump was originally designed as a grout pump, and it was designed to fill cinder blocks. So if you built a cinder block wall and you needed to fill them with concrete, we do it in layers as we go, but if you're doing a large project, a lot of times what they would do to fill it was they would use a grout pump like this. So it's designed to push really fine material, and that's why we have a grate over it, because it's 1/2 inch minus stone will fit through this. And if you look inside here, down at the bottom there's a hole and there's a ball in there. It's literally a sphere. And here's how this pump works. This thing that I have on top here, this is just a vibrator. This helps when the material is really stiff. When we're shotcreting, we have to run the material really stiff. This just vibrates the cage and helps the material fall through. But as the material falls into the hopper, it goes into a chamber where that ball is. So that ball is right here, and then there's another ball right here. Two separate balls. What happens when the material falls in, that ball is down, and there's a piston, and when that piston pushes, it pushes this ball forward, which allows the material to flow through, and it pushes that ball up, which seals it so no mud can come out of the top of the hopper. Mud gets pushed, then there's a secondary piston that keeps jamming in here, pushing it down the hose. And every time the pump strokes back, it pulls back, that ball drops, and the mud falls in, that ball drops back so the mud can't come back. And then when it pushes in, that ball pops up, you hold it, that ball pops open, you push it. And it's a process over and over and over, and that's when you hear it running, you hear it going chunk, 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 chunk. And what that's doing is that's causing that piston to go back and forth, which is making the balls, this ball go up and down, this ball goes side to side. And when one is up, the other one's down, and one's back, the other one's up. And what that does is it allows us to push concrete, really stiff concrete, down these hoses. And that's the process. So what we have to do is we use the bentonite, dump it in there first, and what that's doing as we put concrete in here then is that concrete is slowly pushing that bentonite down the line. And as the bentonite's going down the line, it's basically making the walls of the pipe slippery enough to let the concrete slide through. And if you don't have that and you try to just put your concrete through, what'll happen is it'll separate the aggregate, the stone, it'll start pushing the stone, and the cement will stick on the edges, and you'll get a rock pack. You'll get a chunk of rock in there, and at that point, the pump cannot push it, and the pump will stall, or we have to flip hoses, break hoses, beat hoses, pound on them to try to break that pack up to get it flowing again. So because we do this ourselves and we just do it for our projects, and we're not trying to do volumes of it, we have a very simple system for us. And while it's not efficient for others, it makes more sense for us. We use several buckets of bentonite instead of one. Guys that do it all the time, that are really comfortable and confident with their pumps and how to do it, might use just one. We always use extra. More is better. It's a cheap and inexpensive way of guaranteeing that the pump works right. As is the water wash at the end. It's just a lot simpler process for us, easier for us to then manage. And so by doing those steps, it just makes it easier for us. And what you'll see, the first mud that comes out of the truck, the stuff we're shooting, is pretty stiff. It wouldn't want to go through these grates on its own. It needs to be forced in, and we'll even, at times, we'll have someone here, and we'll have someone here today. Karen will be helping push that mud in because it's super stiff. After we do our shooting, which is only a first part of what we're doing today, then we'll wet up the concrete, and then it'll flow into the pump really easy because all we're doing at that point is footings.
Okay. How many feet of hoses do you have connected to the pump, and how heavy is the average hose, like when it's full?
So we currently have 130 feet out, 50-50, and 30 is 80. We have 130 feet of a hose out right now. Weight-wise, I don't know, heavy. A 25-foot section of hose with nothing in it is 100 pounds. So then you fill that with concrete, and you're many, many, many hundred pounds.
So like last time when we were live and we were in the grotto and we saw Zach just holding the hose, I didn't comment on it at the time, but it looked like he wasn't really moving, except I noticed like his t-shirt was getting wetter and wetter because he was exerting himself holding the hose, just standing there because of the weight.
The isn't so much of an issue, but it's the constant moving when you've got to then lift it off your shoulder and move it and keep it going.
Hose is hot. Last time it felt a lot hotter.
The air hose was really hot. Yeah. Well, we're pumping compressed air. We have a 325 CFM compressor that's pushing a lot of air through a little hose for us to get the strength at the end.
And as concrete is curing, so it's coming through the hose, but then once it's applied where it goes, is it giving off any heat?
Absolutely. The concrete itself, it's a chemical cure, and it's hydrating itself.
basically the water is being boiled out of it and coming out of it, and that chemical process creates heat. All you need to do is go inside the grotto and you'll feel the heat. That's not heat from the sun, that's heat from the curing concrete. It's a good 20 degrees warmer in there probably.
Oh, right now from what we did the other day.
Because it's curing, and it's going to take, concrete takes a minimum of 28 days to cure, and even so, it's curing over 20 years. Concrete is getting stronger as time goes on, and that's why those older patio, if you try to break out an older driveway or an older patio, they're harder to break out than the fresh new ones, because the concrete's been curing for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years.
Got it. Kaylee, will you show me the bentonite bag really quick?
Yeah, quick question. Are you doing enough?
Yes.
Just a one pallet?
Yeah. Yeah, they had to bring a pallet from a different.
So this is the bentonite quick gel, high yield, fast mixing. And where do you buy this from?
Well, what that is used for, I mean, we've adapted it to use it for shotcrete, but that's used in well drilling. That lubricates the bits when they're drilling for a well. So we're technically buying it, that we buy from a local company that drills wells, and we just use it for this. They do make specific products for shotcreting and pumping. It's called like slick packs, and while those work just fine, it's a little snotty, slipperier stuff. This, because we can buy it in quantity and we can just have a bag here and use it up until it's done, and we can make it thicker, thinner, whatever we want. We've gone to this, and it's been great.
Cool. What are the gaskets on the pump? Are those anything in particular?
Those are extras.
Oh,
Those are extras that your daughter figured out where to store, much like her mother back in the day figured out an efficient way of storing extra gaskets.
aha.
So I'll move to the show real quick. What?
Hi, the puppies. Hi, Zach. All right, pregame interview, Zach. What are we looking forward to today?
Penny's over there. Where's Penny?
Okay, so what's your job, role, or responsibility here? So Kaylee's going to be on the grotto. You're going to be on the ladder supporting a lot of the weight of the hose so it can get up to her, and then if it needs to move, you facilitate movement of the hose. Got it. We don't have any of those 4x4 posts here, do we? Al told me a little story. We'll have to reenact that at some point. Yeah. Yeah. We will.
Why?
All right, so let's do more pregame interviews. So team, what are we thinking today as we're getting ready for the truck to arrive? When it gets here, what's your job? What do you do?
I'm hoping it's a good driver. I don't get peppered.
Now explain what your job is, because that sounds
I'm
awesome.
over at the pump machine, making sure that it stays, that the concrete doesn't keep falling off. And on Monday, the guy, you can't let the hopper, the big container, go dry, because then it starts to burp and it spits concrete back at you. So I had to wash my hair 2-3 times that night to get it all out. So I'm hoping I get a good driver. That's what I'm hoping.
Okay. And if you're not a good driver, Kaylee might have to come in
Talk to me.
and have a talking with.
Yes, because I told the guy to go like this, and he said, no.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Kaylee had a talking to him.
Nice.
No? Have we ever had him before?
I don't recognize. I didn't recognize.
Al said yes, but
Oh, really? But
Yeah.
in certain different situations, I have no idea.
not sure.
He
All
was
right.
miserable.
So Jesse, did you watch the live last time? Oh, okay. So you don't know anything I said about you. Well, funny story. So what's your job today?
Whatever I'm told, I'm going to float for what's needed.
You're also making sure Kaylee doesn't fly
Yeah,
off the
I'll
roof.
start-
Yeah,
I'll
she's
start
going
on
up,
the roof
yeah.
with Kaylee in case the hose
Studying
is
with
too,
Kaylee.
just helping move hoses, or I'm just kind of like an extra pair of hands for when
Go
needed.
Okay.
Before I used to do what Zach's job is, but he can gladly have that job.
And what was that?
Just the,
Holding,
the
following
hose
Kaylee.
between my
Yeah.
dad and Kaylee on the hose. I was the one moving them around. So
And they're
Zach
heavy.
can have that job. I'll help if he needs, or because we've got a lot of moving of the hoses, so I'll help with that. And
So I did commentary kind of the entire live last time, and I didn't expect to do that yet. As things were happening, I was explaining what it was, and I was talking about how like precarious a job site can be, how dangerous it can be, and especially when something violent like shotcrete is coming out the hose, you need to be really aware of what's going on. And the rule of thumb is if we're live on Facebook or if a homeowner is watching, like everything is normal, even when it starts to not be normal. So I was telling everybody that I was watching you because I figured if I saw a change in you, something was happening that I should pay more attention to. But if you were chill, and I talk about you playing patty cake with the concrete by the grotto at one point, I'm like, yeah, so Jesse's looking pretty mellow, so we're gonna assume that everything is good. But if Jesse starts to look concerned at all about anything, probably there's a reason. So anyway, yeah.
Pretty much picks up on that.
Yeah. So you're wearing gloves. What's your role responsibility today?
Basically same as. And Karen said that I might help form for the
armatures
boulders.
for the boulders.
The armatures for the
wall.
boulders, but that's after concrete. So just basically
needs
floating and running messages to Karen because you can't. It's hard to hear over the noise of the pump and the
hose and the
concrete
pump,
truck.
yeah.
So, yep,
Okay.
just here for whatever needs support.
Nice. So Jesse, you want to tell me about the front of the grotto because it looks a lot different since I was here last time. So what's happening over there with the grotto? Without giving away any secrets about anything. It looks more like a building. Like last time I was here,
last time you were here,
It was
we had wood up
lumpy, yeah.
because we were shooting it. So yesterday I was able to, the concrete had enough time to cure so it could hold its shape and be strong enough. I was able to strip the forms off at the front so we can see what our base structure is, so then we can get an idea of how we want to, carve and play with it to make our end waterfall result.
Aha. Yeah, I think there have been drawings circulating through the team and around the office, and
Yep,
I
pretty awesome.
don't think the homeowner has clearance to see those yet. So this is kind of a surprise every day.
He showed him the bar.
He showed him the bar.
Al,
He wanted solar panels and on the top, and then he
so he
fixed that.
so he
Once
asked.
saw what Al wanted to do with it. He's like, nope, not messing with creativity.
Very cool. And again, we can't share with any of you viewers at home while we're live what that plan is. But if you want to message me later, I'll be happy to send it all to you.
What happened to, we had the
Unless your
drawing.
name
Where
is,
did that go?
Kevin or Lori.
Okay, I just wanted
and,
so we didn't,
yep,
that's
then
what I
no.
was just asking. We didn't leave it somewhere. And then,
All right. Well, before this whole the truck starts and the drama gets here, we're gonna go take a peek in the grotto because
Go for it.
I know better than to go in there once the truck is here.
Show what boulder armatures are too on the other side.
On the other side of what?
Where that ladder is, the lower pool.
Okay.
I've got the
Oh.
armatures all.
Karen is telling me to check out the armatures for the boulders. So we will do that. So here I am in the bottom of the upper pool. Are we going deeper on the upper pool? How deep is our depth? Do you know?
You mean the depth?
Yeah,
Not very deep. I think it's gonna be
more of a sport,
right around 5.
more of a sport depth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
4.5, 5 feet.
Yeah,
Somewhere
because
in
I
there.
want a volleyball net. So it's
Yeah.
going to be a more flat,
And
Perfect.
then the other pool will be deeper.
which we have the lower pool, so we don't need to go deep for the slide.
Right. Okay. Well, I like the sport depth in my pool. I can comfortably stand in the middle of the deep end and it's, up to my neck. So I like that. I've always liked that
Oh, yeah.
depth for me.
Yeah.
For sure. All right.
Stay in the shallow end and water.
Plus, most people when using a pool use the shallow end. So here is what they're talking about, armatures for the boulders. So When we build, I've talked about we overbuild. So we are adding support and structure everywhere we can. When you see the boulders on our projects or you see the ship, it's not like concrete just gets put there and it magically stays in place. It is reinforced into all the structures. So in this case, we can see from last time we were here and shooting the grotto, there's been another truck of concrete that's been added to this area, as well as the rebar and then the mesh, which is how it ties all of the structure together. So today, after they're on the roof of the grotto, which again, we build definitely strong enough to handle the weight of that concrete up there, they'll be adding some of the concrete to these boulders to keep them progressing as the blobbish looking hunks of concrete that they are. So here's the front of the grotto. I have seen the ideas for this. They are coming along beautifully. Fun fact, Kaylee has been sketching and drawing just about as many ideas as Al has on this project and grotto and all the different ideas. The whole team is highly engaged in all of the detail surprises that we are not talking about quite yet, but this is pretty cool. So they did say it is warmer by about 20 degrees in the grotto. Oh my goodness. So they did the first layer of the interior of the grotto. So when all said and done, that will be completely shaped and formed, and it will look nothing like it does right now. We're just looking at kind of the skeleton of it. You can see all the wires when I was behind the grotto last time, and I pointed out all the wires that were coming out of the form on the back side. This is getting really interesting. If you notice, there's like a ton of wires hanging down. I had also mentioned that when shotcrete is happening, you're not worried about all the details. You try to plan it ahead of time, and then you just go with it as it's coming out of the machine. So Jessie's job after was locate as many of the wires as she could. So this will be obviously wet. It's the grotto. We have built grottos that you go into and the seat is somewhat out of water. We've gone in grottos where the seat's completely underwater. This one has what appears to be two seats. I have the feeling that one of them is going to be wet. The other one, not going to be a seat at all. Then we have this super area going up and in here. Wow, that is so cool. This is something too that always impresses me. 2 months ago, this yard was regular backyard. Al met with the homeowners, and in his imagination, in his mind for design and knowing about pools and how things work together, based on what they said that they were looking for, he created already in his mind what their finished pool will look like. And then through the process of putting it on paper and continuing the design and exploration process, I know his process is he builds it in his mind 100 times or 1,000 times if it's something that's complicated. And this one took on a level of complication. So each piece that's happening, each truck of concrete that shows up is something that he has completely thought through, because he's got to have in his mind how everything comes together from 10 feet underground and up. Because once the structure is here, there's already been a lot of work that went into what's under this structure, what's supporting it. And then when we're standing in something like this massive grotto, it has footings underneath. They had to plan the wiring and everywhere that they would need it in the finished pool. And everything has a certain timing to it, because if you wanted that many wires coming through and you waited, you couldn't do it. You couldn't get them where they need to be. You'd be compromising the amount, or the, getting them where they need to be would be next to impossible. So every single wire that you see, mentally, Al has already gone through. And as I was talking in its relationship to doing concrete work and things like that, you either have the ability to do that in your brain or you don't. And again, people can always learn new things and learn skills. But picking up on all those details and understanding what needs to come first and second and why, those are really important pieces that don't come naturally to just anybody. So this just always astounds me, because I'm the kind of person that, and I'm going to flip this around for a quick second. I am in the grotto. It is definitely hot in here, but it's also shade. So that's fun. Ooh, that's a really interesting amount of sun on my face. Ooh. In the shadow, in the sun. Okay, so that ability to check out those details. Oops, I guess I have to be taller. The ability to check out those details, that is definitely something that either you have, or you really have to work at, or you don't have it all. So if I want to know what the couch is going to look like over here, I physically have to move the couch. Luckily, the people building your pool, they don't have to do that. So back to Al.
Hi.
Hi. And Kaylee. Hi.
Hi.
So I was just talking through planning all the details because,
There's a lot of stuff going on.
because you've planned it in your head a ton of times. How many times have you built this pool from the ground up in your mind?
1,000, and then I changed it all yesterday.
Really?
Just the rough line of this and how I was going to build it. I didn't figure that out until yesterday.
Well, luckily you did before the roof started going on.
We'll have to see if it works, and then we'll know for sure.
Okay.
Jay,
Got it.
right here. Hey, right here.
All right,
We need to
let's
cut
go
this back.
look around the
About
back
this far down.
side.
We need to get this flush.
Since
No, but before too
once
long.
the concrete truck arrives, I'm not quite sure where I'll be able to stand. Well, I suppose before we do that, check out the spa, which is being stoned. A lot of the time when we are working in a backyard, truck's here, this will be fun, I'll head over there. When we're working somewhere that the house has been finished with a certain look, sometimes we'll mirror the stonework on the house or different elements, and sometimes we do a completely different take on that. So I was interesting to see how that goes. I do love this tile choice though, as we talked about. It's one of the newer options that we have. I love the colors in it, and it's easy to see why it works well on this project, because we have some of those tones in the house. So the dogs even know what to do. The truck shows up just for safety's sake. They go hang out in a safe area out of the way so everybody can focus on their jobs, not have to worry about the dogs as much in the moment of the intense activity. Do we recognize the driver, Karen? Okay. Let's hope so, for all of our sakes. All right, I'm gonna let us watch this action here. Kaylee, do you have your phone? Okay. Yeah, Mark's trying to call me and I'm live. Last minute preparations are underway. Concrete truck pulling up. No, this isn't Kaylee, this is Sandy because I'm live on Facebook and I'm saying what's up. I said that definitely needs 3 and we got 2 for Hoffman. You left him in the barn. No, you left 2 and you took 2 and I handed you 1 more. So I'm assuming it's still in the barn. Okay. Yep, you're welcome.
There's Sandy. See how sweatshirt I got on Monday?
Oh, here's Karen. Oh,
This is
so
my sweatshirt from Monday.
nice. So you're gonna wear it again today? Yeah, good idea.
I'm running out of sweatshirts, so I have the 4 girls sweatshirt, which I don't want to get.
Got it. Yep, you've got the fun job here. Would you like me to hold your pop?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Oh, man, I can't jump from side to side either. You're so close. Thank you.
Welcome. All right, so Al was giving some last minute instructions to the driver. Zach is cutting something out of wood. Those are some interesting curves that we're cutting out of that wood over there. As you can see, Kaylee is on top of the grotto. Kaylee and Jesse, as they mentioned, will be starting up there today with Zach on the ladder. Doing whatever needs to be done.
Should have got them trying to get up on top of there.
Oh, I was
It's a
just
bit comical.
trying to figure out where the access point is. Oh, wow. Right, so that's the ladder. Well, woo. Fun stuff.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out the best way to get down.
Right here.
Okay. With the hose?
No, the hose goes first.
Okay. To Zach and Al? To Al.
And probably Zach.
So Zach, your place is going to be on the ladder? Yep. You might want to check and make sure it's stable.
No, Zach's not. Get in there. Zach's not.
Zach's on the ladder.
Yep.
No, look at that.
Oh boy.
Maybe
We need
you
somebody
somebody holding the ladder?
Maybe you can hold the
I think I'm gonna hold the ladder because I.
Get your face mask. See, it's in her pocket, I thought.
So of course the first bit that comes out is that bent. So Kaylee's just putting that in the back area, and here comes material. You're gonna see that hose start to jerk a little bit, which is why got a couple people on it. And here we go. This is not a messy job at all. So from over here we can see Karen helping the material into the hopper, Al getting the machine going. As you can see, when we have a driver that's skilled, they should be able to monitor the amount going in the hopper. Instructions are never let it be empty. So shooting down like this, not nearly as treacherous as shooting sideways was the other day. You can see this is more than pumping. It's coming out with a velocity, but not too much to handle. Got Al suited up. We're emptying the hopper. Saw Karen communicating with the driver. Saw a little bit of splashing, not too much, so we got that under control pretty quickly. Starting to do some of the rock forms. Jessie is kind of hanging on to Kaylee to help give her a little stability. Zach again looks like he's just lounging around on a summer day. However, he's holding that hose, and if he let that go, it would be very, very not good. So every person plays a part. I mean, because yeah, you try to stand on the top of a ladder holding a several 100-pound hose. Pool guy challenges coming up, right? One of the things the pool. I'm not sure why.
Not very full. That's fine. Okay.
Back to one of the things that I really like about our team, especially this season, is we've worked together for quite a while. Everybody knows their roles, and that makes a big difference when doing things like this, when you don't really have as much time to communicate. As you can see with what's happening there is, luckily in this case, Kaylee and Al can see each other and communicate. Every time they move the hose a little bit, it kicks a little bit. So if the person holding it is not expecting that, it's not really good. They could lose their balance, something like that. Looks like we're having a little bit of a change. Jesse's moving out of the way. The hand down of the hose probably happening here soon. Karen's still feeding it into the machine. Annie's got the kill switch in her hand, which in the event that there was any need to stop the pump, they try not to, because especially with how we're doing it, with the smaller pump, as Al was explaining, we don't want to stop it. We want to get the truck emptied without having to turn that off, ideally. But in the event that somebody needs to, we've got our hands on the button. You could see in that a minute ago, I was able to get both the truck and the grotto up. Okay, that's driver let it go empty.
What?
The driver let it go empty. So the grotto that I showed you before we got started today, not going to look anything like it did once we're done inside there. Al's applying material on the underside. So you can tell timing is of the essence, because what had happened there when everybody scrambled a bit is Al got a blast of water. So the concrete coming through the hose way too wet to go where he needed it to, meaning it wouldn't go there, stay there, splash back, just changing consistency. You definitely don't want that to happen, because if he had applied material before it and then it gets hit with that, chances are it's not going to stay where it needs to. And you've got a matter of seconds. So you've got a couple of seconds to make those decisions, get it communicated back. Moving the hose, we're gonna get over to the fittings. Now we're just pumping. So they took the nozzle off the end, and this is a much less crazy amount, yet still a heavy hose. Need to watch where it's going, but instead of wheelbarrows full of product.
Yes, go.
Instead of wheelbarrows, we can pump it through. So it's really good on a team like this if you get a consistent driver, because they learn each company or each team's methods. So while we're needing the driver to do a certain amount of things, our team is trying to coach them in the way that we need it. So as you can imagine, they're delivering concrete to different jobs in different scenarios and things like that. So the more experience they have, the more they can adapt and understand what's happening. But when it is a different driver each time, or somebody, that can cause real challenges. So communication, experience, all those things, but also getting used to a company, and them getting used to you, really important. There's somewhat of universal terminology for things.
Turning it up? Is it okay?
What's that?
Did you turn it up?
Yeah, it wasn't tightened, so it didn't. That's just what we got. Yeah, I'll do it. Okay. I'll close that valve and you open yours and release the pressure.
Okay.
I got to so much.
Okay, so you'll turn it off?
Yeah, I'll turn it on.
So we have Kaylee filling in the footing, Zach helping keep the hose where it is. Jesse is breaking down the nozzle on the pump to get that all cleaned out, make sure it's good and ready for next time.
The driver's covering the air and concrete. He just can't control the flow. Open it all the way, let the air out. What? Open it. Now do it.
I did it.
Do it. Do it now. Leave the valve open and do it. Tell them to add some more water too.
Yep.
Does that mean he's out or no?
No, our pump is Hey Jay. Yeah. Can you come hold this so I can go help break the pump? Unless he can get it by himself.
All right. So we've got a serious plug. If you could see the last mud coming out, it was pretty stiff, meaning concrete was setting up, not enough water was being added. So everybody becomes accustomed on the job to what those noises are. So without being told, Kaylee recognized the noise as the pump broke, which would basically mean there's a plug somewhere. So they're going to add water. We had a plug in the line. Al hit it with a shovel. The hose kicked, something exploded. No, I think it kicked back to where Karen was, and she wasn't expecting the big heavy hose to move. So Al hit the spot with a hammer, or not hammer, a shovel. Was able to pop it back open. Whatever's left in the pump perhaps will get pumped through. Here's where Kaylee is becoming rather impressive. The ability to troubleshoot, get the hose back together. They had a bucket of water, rinsed it off. She and Zach have to line several hundred pounds of hoses up, get it clamped and tightened. got it. We have some spillover, which Zach is going to be shoveling into it. Hey, do you have to close the lid again so it doesn't splash? Back up. We're back in business.
Went back and said we didn't need another truck. We're waiting, so we didn't. Oh, they shot the inside of the grotto. They shot the up. No, they shot the inside again today. They got the upper, and then they shot the half up at the top. There's still some substantial on that. So with the remainder, they wanted to put in the repair. That's when we got
I'm just wondering if I should just leave.
if you should leave.
I wanted to get that soft stuff in there.
Well, I'm supposed to talk to him, but he's
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Al, is there something I can help with here? Is it better for me to go do something else?
Just hang. We're almost done.
Oh, okay.
Hang.
Yep.
How'd your Mackinac roofing job go?
It didn't.
It didn't.
No,
You were on
right.
your way up.
Yeah, I did. I went there, but the guy lied to me and told me the roof was new and well, he didn't lie. Remember they did that? It was like 10 years old without new roofs.
So, ooh, here's the back side of the grotto as they're resetting that pump. We've got all the wiring. There's more wiring than I saw last time. Pretty interesting. Figured we'd go watch golf for a little while. Oh, so interesting. Something I just learned is we are going to have 2 equipment pads on this project. We are going to have the main filtration system, and then I do imagine we are going to have the secondary filtration system for the second swimming pool. I mean, it's the lower level pool. It's all going to have the same body of water, but we'll be able to control it in 2 different places, do different things with it. So here we go. We can see on the back side the boulders that we formed a little bit.
Hey, keep it in the pool.
Ledge still down there, Zach?
Yeah, oh, we still have a plug in the line. Concrete got too stiff. Plugged up. Think we're going with plan B. Just gonna be pumped more out into the pool.
Let's get it part right there. Let's just go fill that transfer mud.
So I think this is the part too where we can see our crew get a little more taxed on a concrete day. If everything runs the way it's supposed to, it's taxing enough. When you start having equipment issues, then it could get a little bit more exerting, a little more work. Now they have to get those hoses rinsed out. So they're going to get this broken apart. They're going to salvage the concrete still in the truck, repurpose it for something else.
Whoa! Wow!
And then they're going to have to clean out the hoses.
We can go finish that footing.
Oh,
Oh, that's heavy stuff.
There it is, right there.
Got it?
It's called the meatball.
Wow.
Hey, you need to go turn the motor off of the pump. Here's some water.
so Al had given Jesse what he called a meatball, which would be a chunk of already forming concrete. It was too hard to get through the section of pipe or hose that looked like a rigid section of hose. So now we're reassembling.
Turn the motor back on. No, the motor. Go ahead and do that. If you didn't turn the motor off, do this. Turn it up. Annie, it's okay. We're gonna have to shovel out of there anyway. Okay. So,
Should I shovel the rest of this in there?
no, leave it. We'll shovel it up into the water.
Okay. All right.
Flowing a little bit better.
Yeah.
We'll make it work. Because here's the one that's going to be doing the block work. So. It's only a little bit of block right here. Huh? You can. Or you can wait for that. Sure.
Make it level if you do. That's all the issue? Yeah.
And here we have Frank jumping into the action, noticing we were pumping a footing. When it was coming out, the mud was a lot stiffer than it is right now. So this one's going a lot more level on its own. Frank offered to trowel that one, so we've got a smoother surface for the block wall. Is that Kaylee hustling around the pool to get it to a different location. It's a big heavy hose that needs to get out of the pool.
Turn it on. Yes, it did. She needed more holes, so I just dropped the thing to go get her more holes.
Lots of fun, excitement on the job today. This is pretty spectacular. Even looking like this, big blob of concrete at this point, and steel. It's pretty impressive. Got Frank leveling, Kaylee watching the hose, filling in, more footing, more trench. Always more. Zach's shoveling some of the mud from the spillover, spilling out of the pump when the driver didn't keep it flowing. Kaylee lounging by the pool. Watching the mud. Aha! I do believe I just figured out what this trench is for. Anybody else have any ideas? I'm standing here looking at what looks like the base of a chute. So I do believe this is where the slide is going to wrap around from the grotto down to the lower pool.
But when we hear it,
Piers, we're out of mud. Jesse is cleaning out the nozzle of the hose with a toothbrush. Zach and Kaylee jump in the bucket. Need to get those hoses that gave them a run for their money today. Get them cleaned out. To dump and toss those buckets as fast as they can. I didn't know that. I learned something new today.
Your peak propel that you left up at Grandma's. Oh, thanks. It's in the fridge. Top shelf.
Let's watch Kaylee and Zach as they do the breakdown process. Hey Jesse, how's it looking in there?
I think it's pretty good. I think I'm gonna go use the other hose and make sure it's all nice and cleaned out.
Nice. All right, Kaylee, I think I'm signing off. You want to give us a wave? See you next time.